Today's Thursday, so we talk about success for Scrum Masters. We've been sharing success stories here on the podcast since 2015, so there's a lot to learn. But wouldn't you like to learn from people with decades of experience? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. The Scrum Master Toolbox podcast launched Tips from the Trenches, the Scrum Master edition audiobook. That's version 2 now out. There are 13 audio interviews, 3 hours of audio with Scrum Masters that have decades of experience. We've got Mike Cohn, Linda Rising, Lisa Crispin, Christopher Avery, Emily Weber, myself, your podcast host, Yves Hanul, the editor of the original Tips from the Trenches ebook, also available with the audiobook. Altogether, 13 super experienced Scrum Masters. To learn more, visit bit.ly/audiotips2. That's bit.ly/AUDIOTIPS and the numeral 2 at the end, all lowercase, all one word. So one more time, that's bit.ly/audiotips2 to learn more. And now, on to today's show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Success Thursday this week with Chris Foley. Hi, Chris. Welcome back.
Hi, Vasco. Great to be back. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. And now we're going to talk about first the retrospectives, then success for us as Scrum Master. So let's start with the retros. What's your favorite retrospective format and why?
So kind of give you a different perspective on this. So I can give you, firstly, I'll give you my favorite retro, answer the question that you've asked me. So I like the one, Remember the Future, right? So basically, you're asking the team to time travel ahead, out to the next end of the next iteration, and that they find out that, oh, look, this has been the most productive, most valuable, efficient iteration we had, be it sprint or release. And then you give them some time to kind of jot down their ideas and their even some words to kind of articulate how good that was and why was it so good. And then allow them explain then, that they actually, okay, this is why it was so good. And then from there, you're looking at what actions could we put in place to get to that situation. So I think, the reason I like this approach is, again, maybe coming from my coaching background, you would often ask a client in a coaching situation is, what does success look like? What does it look if things worked out really well? So you kind of get them to come through that lens. So that's why I like this retro style myself. But I want to call out something more fundamental here. Obviously, there's many retro, tools or approaches and formats. But if your retros are maybe not going, as efficiently, or you're not getting the value out that you would hope for, I think the Scrum Master needs to look more deeply, because you need to look at the team and how they're interacting. So what's happening inside? Is there a growth mindset in the team? Are they looking at kind of something that went wrong with, a lens of opportunity? And, if you have that, is there psychological safety in the team? Are all team members, are they not afraid to come up and challenge a decision or an approach or a solution? If them fundamental pieces are not at play, or if you have a real dominant ego in the team, that is absolutely dominating all the discussion, all their ideas are the ones that are used. Like, if them things are there, you will struggle irrespective of what retro format you use. So I think Scrum Master should be very conscious of that. It's how the team works and the dynamics in the team. They dictate, in my view, how valuable the retro becomes.
Absolutely. That's a great reminder that it's not only about having a retrospective format that works, it's also about having a team that works within that retrospective format. Because what you said about the growth mindset, and we've talked about that the growth mindset is not a requirement for a retrospective to be successful, but obviously a fixed mindset requires a completely different approach than a growth mindset.
Yes, exactly. So again, it's to the Scrum Master to try and understand the team dynamics. That is fundamental for how to get value out of retros. And as I said, if they're not going, even if you change formats and you're still not getting the value, it's often that there may be an underlying issue there. And again, you really need to look to the team structure, team dynamics, psychological safety, growth or fixed mindset, all of them pieces that are central to a team working to its optimal, basically. So rather than get caught up on which format to use, don't be afraid to dig a bit deeper. And there's one other thing I'd just like to raise here, Vasco, kind of somewhat related. Something we done with a team there recently was we done a strengths-based assessment. So we had a small, reasonably mature team of 4 people. We got them to do a strengths assessment. The top 5 strengths came out. We got them on a call because we're working obviously with remote teams, got them to talk through their strengths and kind of say, look, they say this is a strength of mine, but I'm not so sure. And what we found was some of the other members jumped in and said, absolutely, it's a strength of yours. You do this every day. This is so valuable to the team. So it's obviously not a retro, but it's very much saying the team are good at this. It was a very good morale boosting exercise for the team. And actually, it was a team building thing that we didn't actually expect to get out of that.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder that certain things kind of fit multiple purposes, right? You were trying to help the team understand their growth, perhaps even instilling a little bit of growth mindset, but that became a valuable, not only retrospective, but a morale booster.
Yes.
That's an awesome story. So now we turn our attention to the Thursday topic, and that is, of course, the success for us as Scrum Master. So share with us, Chris, what's your definition of success in your role as a Scrum Master?
Yeah, I think for me, this is fairly clear. And again, I suppose I have, a team being successful. I'm very involved in sport as well. So you will find that success and team success, they're common across many domains. So for me, a really good functioning team is success. But what do I mean by that, right? Firstly, as I mentioned strengths earlier, a team that understand their strengths, are aware of them and use them, right? They solve problems using their strengths. A team that are not afraid to challenge each other. So there is psychological safety within the group and they're happy to challenge each other, trash out decisions, trash out approaches. If you see that going on as a Scrum Master, that makes me happy. Other things like teams that actively listen, and I use that term actively because it's very important. Like, we've all sat in a room or we've all been on a call and, somebody could be talking, but we're not really actively listening. I think active listening is so important that you're actually fully engaged, that you're not writing an email, etc., etc.
So actively listening becomes even more important when teams are remote. But give us an example so that we might recognize what it looks like, especially in a remote setting.
Yeah, so if I know that you're actively listening, I can give an example even in an earlier session we had here. If I'm explaining something and the terminology that I use, if you come back to me with a question using that same terminology. So if I say, we're opening up this kind of one-liner. And if you come back to me and said, what do you mean by opening up that one-liner? It's very clear that you are actively listening to me, right? You're not interpreting. You're using my language, so that's a real sign of active listening. So fully in tune, talking the same language. So you'll see that. And again, I get this somewhat from my coaching side, that a coach with a client, don't use somebody else's language. Use their language, because that's your engagement point. So another thing that I think for me success is, I think if the team embrace diversity, embrace different ideas, open to listening and discussing different ideas. If that's active in the group, in the Scrum Master, their team is in a good place, right? And if you get them things working, the fallout of that is like, you're going to have happy stakeholder, you're going to have a happy, engaging product owner. Maybe just flipping it a bit and saying, if I was worried with the team as a Scrum Master, if the team was struggling, the first thing you'll see is probably poor communication. They'll struggle there. You may see knowledge silos appearing. The discussion on different topics probably isn't as active and fully engaged as should be. Again, that wouldn't be a good sign if there's just one person making all these decisions, that there's nobody challenging anything, nobody giving their views. And if there's no ownership of the component they're developing, no kind of pride in that. So they would be some of the kind of the negative or anti-patterns that you would see that for me as a Scrum Master would be kind of alarm bells that, we need to look into this and improve things.
Absolutely. So definitely lots of things to think about for us as Scrum Masters. I like the detail that you went into explaining success. There's a lot of things that we could, for example, build a checklist for us to observe on a regular basis. So thank you for that, Chris.
You're welcome, Vasco. Thank you.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.